I'm still kind of reeling from this whole thing, and I need to get it off my chest. Sorry in advance if this gets long, but I'm just going to spill it all out, like I'm talking to a friend at a bar. Picture me with a half-drunk coffee, slouched over my phone, typing this in a gas station parking lot somewhere in Ohio at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep. Here's the story of how I ended up broke, exhausted, and weirdly at peace after a 12-hour bus ride to make it to my dad's retirement party. I'm 28, living in a cramped studio apartment in Pittsburgh, working a soul-sucking call center job that pays just enough to cover rent, ramen, and the occasional six-pack. My dad, though? He's the kind of guy who'd give you the shirt off his back, then apologize for it not being ironed. He's been a high school janitor for 35 years. Same school, same hallways, same kids spitting gum in the water fountains. He's not the guy who gets the spotlight, but he's the guy who keeps the place running. When I was a kid, I'd see him scrubbing graffiti off lockers or mopping the gym after a basketball game, and he'd always wave at me like he was proud to be there. Never complained, not once. So when my mom texted me 2 months ago that they were throwing him a retirement party, I knew I had to be there. No question. Problem is, I'm broke as hell. Like, check your couch cushions for quarters. Broke. I've been scraping by since I lost my last real job. Layoffs at a startup. Yay, 2025 economy. The party was going to be in my hometown, a small nowhere town in upstate New York, about 400 miles from Pittsburgh. Driving wasn't an option. My car's been dead since last winter, and I can't afford to fix it. Flying? Might as well book a rocket to Mars. That left the bus. A Greyhound, 12 hours, with a transfer in Cleveland. One-way ticket was $85. Round trip? $160. That's a big chunk of my emergency fund, which was already looking more like a hope fund. But here's the kicker. I wanted to get my dad something special, not some generic world's best dad mug or a gift card he'd never use. He's a guy who loves his routines. Coffee at 6 a.m., old country music on the radio, and tinkering with his ancient toolbox in the garage. I remembered how he'd always talk about this one wrench he'd had since he was 19, some beat-up thing he swore was better than anything they make now. It was his go-to for every fix-it job, from my bike chain to the kitchen sink. So I got this idea to get him a custom engraved wrench. Something nice, heavy, high quality, with his name and retired 2025 on it. I found a guy on Etsy who does custom tools, and after some back and forth, he quoted me $140 for a chrome-plated, American-made wrench with the engraving. Shipping and tax bumped it to $165. Add the bus ticket, and I was looking at $325. My bank account had $312 in it. I sold a couple of old video games and a jacket I hadn't worn in years to make up the difference. I ordered the wrench 3 weeks before the party. The guys sent me progress pics, and damn, it looked good. Shiny, solid, with Ray retired 2025 etched in clean block letters. I could already picture my dad's face when he opened it. Probably a grunt and a, well, ain't that something? But I'd know he loved it. The wrench showed up a week before the trip, wrapped in bubble wrap in a plain cardboard box. I held it like it was a damn museum artifact. It felt like it carried the weight of every late-night shift my dad ever worked. The bus ride, though, that was a whole other beast. I booked the cheapest ticket I could find, which meant leaving Pittsburgh at 3 a.m. on a Friday to get to my hometown by early afternoon. I packed a backpack with the wrench, carefully wrapped in a hoodie, a change of clothes, a toothbrush, and a couple of granola bars. The bus station was grim. Flickering lights, sticky floors, and a guy in the corner muttering to himself about conspiracy theories. I kept my head down, earbuds in, listening to a playlist of my dad's favorite Johnny Cash songs to keep me grounded. The bus itself was an experience. It smelled like stale chips and regret. My seatmate was a middle-aged woman who kept falling asleep on my shoulder, drooling a little, and I didn't have the heart to nudge her off. The guy across the aisle was eating a tuna sandwich at 4 a.m., and I swear the smell lingered for hours. We hit traffic outside Cleveland, and the driver announced we'd be delayed an hour. Great. I texted my mom to let her know I might be cutting it close. She responded with a heart emoji and, "Your dad's gonna be so happy you're coming." That kept me going. The transfer in Cleveland was chaos. The station was packed, and I almost missed my connecting bus because the signs were confusing as hell. I sprinted across the terminal, backpack bouncing, wrench clanking against my water bottle. Made it with 30 seconds to spare. The second leg was quieter, but by then my phone was at 10%, and I'd eaten my last granola bar. I spent the last 4 hours staring out the window, watching fields and strip malls blur by, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake blowing all my money on this. I got to my hometown at 3:15 p.m., 45 minutes before the party started. No time to go home and change, so I showed up at the VFW hall in my wrinkled hoodie, jeans and sneakers, smelling faintly of bus and desperation. The place was decked out, streamers, balloons, a banner that said, "Happy Retirement, Ray." My mom spotted me first and nearly tackled me with a hug. My dad was in the corner talking to some old co-workers, wearing his usual flannel and a shy smile. He looked older than I remembered. Not frail, just worn, like the years had finally caught up. I didn't want to make a big scene, so I waited until things calmed down to give him the gift. The party was loud. Cousins I hadn't seen in years, neighbors, a few of his old students who'd shown up to say thanks. Someone had made a slideshow of photos from his years at the school, and I caught him wiping his eyes when he thought no one was looking. That's when I knew I'd made the right call coming. When I finally got a moment with him, I handed him the box. "What's this?" he said, raising an eyebrow. He's not big on gifts, says they're a waste of money, but I could tell he was curious. He opened it, pulled out the wrench, and just stared at it. Ran his thumb over the engraving. Didn't say anything for a good 10 seconds, which for my dad is like an eternity. Then he looked at me and said, "You didn't have to do this, kid." His voice was rough, like he was trying not to choke up. I mumbled something about how he deserved it, and he pulled me into one of those quick, awkward dad hugs that mean more than any speech. The rest of the night was a blur. I ate way too much potato salad, danced with my mom to some terrible 80s song, and listened to my dad's old co-workers tell stories about him fixing the heat in the middle of a snowstorm or sneaking kids free snacks from the cafeteria. I kept catching him holding the wrench, showing it to people saying, "My kid got this for me." I don't think I've ever seen him that proud. I crashed at my parents' place that night, in my old bedroom that still smells like teenage body spray and regret. The next morning, my dad made me coffee, and we sat on the porch, not saying much, just watching the neighbor's dog chase its tail. He mentioned he was going to use the wrench to fix the garage door, which has been sticking for years. "Good tool," he said, like it was no big deal. But I knew it was. The ride back to Pittsburgh was somehow worse. Same bus, same smells, but now I was out of snacks, and my phone was dead. I had $12 to my name, and my next paycheck wasn't for another week. I spent most of the ride mentally calculating, but weirdly, I didn't feel as panicked as I thought I would. Yeah, I'm broke. Yeah, the bus ride was hell. But seeing my dad's face when he opened that gift, hearing him brag about it to his buddies, that was worth every penny and every miserable hour on that bus. I don't know if I'm an idiot for spending my last $300 on a wrench and a ticket, or if I'm just a sap for my dad. Maybe both. All I know is, when I'm old and gray, I'm not going to remember the tuna sandwich guy or the drool on my shoulder. I'm going to remember my dad holding that wrench like it was the best thing he'd ever gotten. TLDR. Took a 12-hour bus ride to make it to my dad's retirement party. Spent my last $300 on a custom-engraved wrench for him. Broke, exhausted, but no regrets. He loved it, and that's all that matters.